back out of executive session. No decisions were made. It's 6:02. There being no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So welcome. It is 6:02. City Council meeting Tuesday, November 15th. I'd like to acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. We tried something a little bit different tonight with the executive session first, so hopefully you wouldn't have to come into the room, pile out of the room, wait around, come back into the room. So I hope this works better from a resident viewpoint. So just let us know what you think when we finish tonight. So join me standing for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we thank you for the day. Thank you for the weather you provided for us. Thank you for this piece of paradise we get to live and work and play in, and just help us to be good stewards of that. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, roll call.
Here. Councilmember Popson.
Here.
Councilmember Streetman. Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Did you get Rusty?
Is he actually in? He's watching, or is he participating?
He's in Zoom.
Participating.
He is participating. Okay.
Watching. Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Where?
Here. Councilmember Goshen.
Here.
Councilmember Hahn.
Here.
Mayor Pounds.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item is citizens' comments. I think we have 10 or so people signed up tonight.
Yes,
Nicole.
sir. Mr. Randy Bell.
Well, thank you once again. So I just want to say, having seen the letter from Lowe's and Dart, it's insulting to the community to receive correspondence that states that we're impulsive. 2 public hearings, so where have they been? There's nothing impulsive about proper government process and IOP city zoning rights. I have zero doubt that had the prior council understood that we legally could have addressed the zoning for the PRD, that it would have been done with the prior council. The premise that Dart's a long-term contributor to Wild Dunes is flawed from the start, simply one of many false statements. I seriously doubt that any residents feel that the Sweetgrass Inn to be in the best interest of the quality of life on this island. I asked that question during my council tenure, and the concerns and doubts expressed at that time ring very true today with all the complaints about noise and other issues. So I'm going to depart a little bit from my normal diatribe. For anyone that watches Yellowstone, which is great, I was watching last night, and I'm just going to recite what Desiree's laughing, what was stated by the ranch owner, John Dutton, who's now the mayor. Fortunately, he's a governor. I'm sorry. Philip, I got that totally confused.
Iron Man.
See, I'm just seeing if anyone's paying attention. I said, fortunately, he's not acting on outdated zoning ordinances, but he said, God isn't making any more land and certainly isn't building any more rivers. We are not your playground. We are not your haven from the pollution, traffic, and mismanagement of your home states, and we are not a vacation rental. A little bit of paraphrasing here. This is our home. If you choose to make this your home, you will start treating it like a home and not a vacation rental. So if Lowe's and Dart has legitimate concerns regarding their 82% investment in Wild Dunes, then I would hope that their due diligence was better than this council's on the marina. So caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. This is not an issue for city council. It's an issue between WDCA, Wild Dunes, their management, and the ownership group. Thank you.
Tony Santiago.
It's a long walk. First off, I want to thank everybody, especially the citizens. I was amazed how everybody's come together on this issue. Couldn't be any more prouder of where I live and what every one of you have done individually here. I want to thank the administration, too. It's just a tough battle we've been through, and you guys have had to put up with a lot of our nonsense. So thank you so much. Council, you know, I'm thankful, came here in August and said you need to hear something. It's not the first time I said it in public. That's back in the March 22nd of the year when I did at the WDCA meeting, expressed these exact concerns. They're on YouTube. You can listen to it. You can watch it. There was a board representative there. from the resort. He heard it. They understood what my position was. This is just a rezoning issue. And they knew that. So there is no lack of notice here whatsoever. I want to just tell you guys that there is no bad people here. Even the resort are business people. They will do what they can get away with doing. We as a city have the responsibility to manage them. So this isn't an evil this or an evil that. This is really about us doing what we need to do. We need to protect this island. This island needs to think through how it's going to address these issues going forward. If you ever don't want to have a traffic study right now, you got to be off your knockers. It's 2014 that we did a traffic study. Now, if you did a traffic study right now in the summer, what would you find? What percentage of traffic would we have here? We need to get updated data so that you as a council can manage what these people try to do in development. They're going to try to develop, and they should. They can come back in even after you pass these, and once again, they can come in for an application to rezone, and that's their right, and they should. But the council needs to have the data to decide what's reasonable and what's not. So after this is done, hopefully after this is all passed, we need to do a better job of capturing data and information on all of our infrastructure issues so you know how to make better decisions. You shouldn't have somebody like me coming up and finding out that this was possible all along. That should never have happened. I'm not anybody special at all. Ask my wife, okay? I'll tell you that. I just want to say thank you for everybody here, including the resort representatives coming in, and I hope they do come to speak. I think that would be wonderful. But God bless. Please make the right decision. Thank you.
Laura Levins. Adjust this down. Good evening. I wanted to reiterate what one of the former council members said at the last public hearing, that we have reached a defining moment in where we want to see things go. Do we want to pass these 5 amendments, which is clearly the will of the people of this island, and stop further development for now? To Tony's point, there could be some discussion down the road, but for now, are we going to move forward to protect this island that we call home? Not just the people. I'm talking about the beaches. I'm talking about our wildlife. I'm talking about the shorebirds that come here and spend part of their summers here. This is their home in the summer. Or are we going to allow a developer to come in and overburden what is already overburdened on our island? You know, it's interesting. Every space has a capacity. When I arrived here at the very first public meeting, I was met at the door by a person who said, "You can't come in. We're at capacity. Every seat is full." Well, this island has a capacity. This 5.4 square miles has a capacity. And I simply want to ask that the council listen to your constituents, listen to the will of the people, and pass these ordinances so that our space can be a more healthy place for everybody, not just people. Thank you.
Brian Duffy.
Well, like everybody else, I'm here to talk about the ordinances 2022-8 through 12. First, I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for listening. You have heard your constituents, and you have acted so far to this point. I am outraged, and you should be too, at the threatening letter from Low Dart Interest calling this action impulsive and without due process. I would like to remind you that you have followed process. You have crossed the T's, dotted the I's. You've had a first reading with public comments. You've had 2 public hearings, not the required one for citizen comments. The Planning Commission has reviewed these ordinances, stated they are in accord with our comprehensive plan, and they unanimously approved and recommended to the council for passage. You resisted a task force, which is not in our code and is not part of the process. You have provided due process to all your constituents. I urge you to pass all 5 ordinances because you know this island cannot support 700 additional in-rooms, and you know in your hearts it's the right thing for the community you represent. Thank you.
Dana Lanigan.
Hi. So I want to read some of the comments that I've emailed to the group of you to get them into the record, but specifically to refute the argument that I've heard some make, but also that was made in this most recent correspondence from Wild Dunes. And that is that there's somehow some equivalence between restricting the use of private property and a taking of private property. We restrict the use of private property in all kinds of ways. We have public comment periods before any kind of improvement to property right to any private property, because it's always a balancing of one property owner's rights to use their property in a particular way against the rights of the neighboring property owners. South Carolina specifically has taken care of some of the concerns of anybody making a development of improvement to their property, that they're going to be allowed to use that development as approved for a certain period of time. And that's called the Vested Rights Act. That period of time is 2 years, right? So it also guarantees an annual 5-year renewal as long as the plan's not rescinded. So what a developer or any other private property owner has a right to expect when they make an improvement to their private property is about 7 years of unrestricted use. Even during that period, if there's a countervailing public interest, public welfare, safety, those kinds of things, the plan's always subject to change. So the fact that you own a property, particularly in a small place like this, has never meant and does not mean now that you have an unlimited permanent right to use that property any way you want to do it. That's it. Thanks.
Carol Willingham.
Hi, I'm Carol Willingham. My husband Ed and I have owned our home at 2 Fairway Village Lane for about 10 years. I want to thank the IOP City Council, the staff, the Planning Commission, and also the many citizens who have come out often to diligently study, responsibly study the proposed ordinances, and who now we all have an opportunity to stand together to take decisive, not divisive action to protect the future of this island. And we need to be guided by facts, not fear. To Dart, I want to acknowledge that my family and I do enjoy some of the new amenities at Wild Dunes. But I know you understand we did not ask for those, and that those bright and shiny amenities are not free to us, nor should they be. We are taxpayers, we are club members, we pay for what we eat and drink, so we're paying for what we use. But we also pay dearly in non-monetary ways. Most of us did not choose to buy our home here because we wanted a bustling resort with motor coaches chugging down our narrow streets, rental guests clogging the pools, the beaches, the parking areas, except for the employee one, pedestrian and bike paths, often having little regard for marshes, beaches, and our neighborhoods. Responsiveness from the resort to our concerns has been greeted with empty promises at best, hostility at worst. I wish it were not so, but you cannot compromise and negotiate in good faith when there is a foundation, when there is not a foundation of mutual trust, and it is not there. We want to welcome visitors. We want to be good ambassadors for Wild Dunes and for our city. But when dishonesty and heavy-handedness have colored so many of the interactions, it's hard to muster a lot of goodwill. Please, council, ensure with your vote tonight that a healthy balance exists now and into the future between residential and environmental concerns and ambitious corporate interests. I recall being in these chambers in May of 2019. That was my very first experience with IOP governance. And the resort owner wanted variances to city ordinances so they could run cement trucks all up and down Palm Boulevard and pour concrete all night within Wild Dunes. When I emailed our then mayor the next morning to express and applaud the decision to deny the request of the resort, I also applauded the whole process. It was civil, it was open, it was great. The then mayor commented to me that he was not elected to encourage corporate development, but to listen to and to support the people who live here.
Ms. Willingham, I need you to wrap your
So
comments.
may it be so with you tonight, our trusted elected leaders. Please vote for these ordinances without delay. Thank you.
Sean Griffin.
Sean Griffin, full-time resident for 23 years with my wife Kathy and daughter Hartley. It's the first time I've spoken in front of the committee, and I have a whole long speech, but I think I'm going to paraphrase it since a lot of it's already been said. Everyone knows we're at a critical crossroads here on IP. We're trusting council to put aside any personal or corporate interest and vote for what the residents are telling you that we want and need. Without checks on this rampant growth, we will all experience further increases in the many negative effects that we've all seen over the last few years. We all know what they are. I'm not going to go into all that because it'll take up all my time. One of the things that Randy mentioned is the noise. I know you've been made aware of this recently, but we can hear it from about a mile away at the Sweetgrass Inn on weekends, and I think it's affecting certainly our livability. We're being told to just trust the resort and everything will be fine, and there's nothing to worry about, and there are no current plans for expansion. The thing is, this didn't work out too well for us in the past. Everybody's aware of the Sweetheart deal that they received for the beach renourishment and their omission of transfer fees. But these are things that we have to pay into perpetuity. Also, everybody knows about the tennis courts being removed and the parking being installed for the employees when they said they didn't need any studies or permits because of existing zoning. Anyway, these are just two reasons why we've lost a lot of faith and trust in the resort. We've also been told by Lowe, that Lowe is the managing partner and DART is just in the back seat. We can't be naive and think that the 82% partner, Kenneth Dart, is just going to be completely silent and go along for the ride without creating influence. Speaking of influence, I was in Grand Cayman last week, and one of the hot topics down there, I think the locals are pretty bewildered with all the growth and development. And if you've been to Cayman lately, it's a big change from what it used to be. It's frankly not as enjoyable place to visit as it once was. And in fact, many of the locals call it Grand Dart instead of Grand Cayman. He's integrated himself very well into Cayman life. He does a lot of pet projects to garner goodwill. He's taken over a lot of the services. I'm sure that's not what we want to see happen here, especially with the balance that we're trying to maintain between healthy residential neighborhoods and the corporate tourism industry. Right now, that balance is in jeopardy. Ultimately, we all want a positive and symbiotic relationship with the resort owners, and I do believe that they add a lot of value to our community in many ways. But by the same token, we feel that the residents' rights are continually being diminished, and we're at a tipping point. The addition of more condos and hotel rooms will permanently change what remains of the residential character of many neighborhoods forever. We're also hearing that you should delay your vote tonight. We strongly disagree. This has not been a hasty decision, as you've heard tonight, and we need to operate from a position of strength. If they build more rooms, if they want to build more rooms, let them come back to the city with a comprehensive plan that takes everything into account. Right now, they can do as they please without regard for the current state of the island and how the community has evolved and grown over the last 50 years.
Mr. Griffin, I'll need you to wrap your
When
comments
our
up,
poorly
please.
designed PDD was crafted. Just one more thing. Anyway, I'll skip a lot of the part, but in conclusion, we can't worry about the threat of litigation from Wild Dunes Resort. This is purely an intimidation tactic. Please stand strong and let's not let the Isle of Palms turn into the Isle of Dart. Thank you.
Hack.
Good evening. My name is Terry Hack, and I'm representing Low and Dart Interest, who are the owners of Wild Dunes Resort. Thank you for your service to the Isle Palms community and for allowing me to speak this evening. I assure you that we understand the significance of the decision before you tonight. We have listened carefully to the feedback that the public has provided. We hear your concerns. Traffic and growth are major issues affecting everyone. Wild Dunes Resort is asking for an opportunity to have a meaningful discussion with the city regarding the 5 ordinances that fundamentally alter our property's rights that we've had since 1976. We have always wanted a pathway to compromise. We are requesting the city to
Terry, hang on one second. Just a little bit of respect and civility would be great. Thank you. We've listened to everybody's comments. We can listen to Terry's. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We have always wanted to find a pathway to compromise. We are requesting the city to take time to engage with Wild Dunes Resort and work together to improve the city's plan for benefit of all of the parties. Make no mistake, these ordinances do take away our property rights. At the Planning Commission hearing, Mr. Carr even confirmed these ordinances do affect the limit, essentially limiting our ability to develop. We are aware of how difficult it is to rezone a property. Just because we have the right to rezone an application doesn't mean that we haven't had anything taken away from us. As a council, it appears that you understand where I'm coming from. If I understand, last year, the city council and the residents were incensed that the state DOT restriped the connector without notifying the city. Maybe I'm incorrect about that, but I think that's true. It wasn't okay then, so why is it okay for you to do this to us now? The city intentionally rushed to pass the first reading of the 5 ordinances expressly to avoid any discussion with Wild Dunes Resort. Changing the underlying zoning of the largest business in this city without any earnest dialogue is just not the right way to do things. We urge the City Council to take the time provided under the pending ordinance doctrine, which was granted with the first reading. At that meeting, it was suggested that the process could take up to 6 months. We are not asking for 6 months, but we want due process so that we can take a holistic look at the entire PRD and share our vision for the future for Wild Dunes Resort, one of which unequivocally preserves 2 golf courses.
Ms. Hack, I'm going to need you to wrap your comments up.
Yes, ma'am, I'm almost done.
Thank you.
We seek essential feedback from the public and work with the city to improve the plan for all of us. Without having a fair process to respond to the city's proposed ordinances and to share our ideas with the future, we have no meaningful avenue to preserve our property interest against these ordinances. It's hard to be patient when there's a chorus of loud voices pushing for a swift decision with no dialogue. But you do have a choice. Please make the right choice. Engage in a meaningful dialogue before taking a vote. We believe strongly in doing so, it will give you a real opportunity to address today's pressing issues and benefit all property owners within the Isle of Palms. Thank you very much.
That's all.
Did it, Nicole? Thank you. So thank you for the comments. In addition to all of those, we've had about 350 emails, either submitted via the form, open forums, emails directly to council, so certainly appreciate all the engagement with this particular topic, so thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of order
Second.
to consider the second reading of ordinances 2022-8, 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Second.
Second.
See,
Motion, that's just a motion to
just up here.
suspend.
Yep, thank you.
No, it's a motion to suspend
Yeah.
is all it is.
And we've got a second.
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, I just want to confirm that the comments that were received via the public online forum will be included as part of the record.
Okay, thank you. I'll let that out. Shan?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
Yeah,
make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2022-8.
Second?
Thank you.
We're going to take these one at a time.
Yeah, because I need to read the motions and take them through.
Before we begin, I'd like to make a statement, and that is that I am recusing myself from involvement in this issue. I petitioned the South Carolina Ethics Commission to determine if there was a conflict of interest. My husband sits on the board of the Wild Dunes Community Association, and there is a member of the resort, an employee of the resort that sits on that Community Association board. Their decision was that because the Community Association is seen as a business and that our decision will affect the income of that business, that I should recuse myself. So unfortunately, I will not be able to vote on this.
Thank you. So we've had a motion and a vote to reorder the agenda. Just a couple of quick comments. Haste and speed are not typically two words that happen with municipal government. So it's interesting that that's put out there tonight, that we've been acting too fast on this topic. We have spent months on this topic with very good legal advice that are here in the room. To earlier comment, we have needed to cross all our T's, dot all our I's, and follow the process to the letter of the law, which we have certainly done. What were our goals when we started this? We wanted to protect the city, which we certainly done that. We wanted to limit future development, which we have certainly done that. We wanted to put the city in the best possible spot that we could, and I think with the path that we've gone down, we've absolutely done that. We were weighing traffic and infrastructure and livability and quality of life and parking. It's a lot to balance, without a doubt, and it's a lot to make sure we have heard you all loud and clear, believe me, on this topic. But, we tried to get, again, the city to the best spot, to the most protected spot that we could get, and again, which we did. So we will move forward with this. We've got a motion and a second. Unfortunately, we can do this without reading the whole ordinance, but we do have to read the title of it. So ordinance 2022-08 is an ordinance amending Title 5, Planning and Development, Chapter 4, Zoning, Article 2, District Regulations of the City of Isle of Palms Code of Ordinances to provide for a new conservation recreation district.
We already have a motion on
Yep,
this.
and a second.
We got a roll call?
Was there a second?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I seconded.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Councilmember Myers seconded the motion
Okay.
to approve
Thank you.
2008.
Mr. Mayor, just to reiterate during discussion phase what you've already said, we have followed the due process. We have followed the process of this procedure to the letter. We've been deliberate, we've been methodical, we've been comprehensive. We've had 2 public hearings, and we've received emails from over 400 citizens. These ordinances protect and improve the Isle of Palms infrastructure, quality of life, safety, and the future of our island. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Nicole, roll call. And don't forget Rusty's on the line as well.
I'm going to do these alphabetical order.
Perfect. I think that's quality.
Councilmember Goshen,
Aye.
Councilmember Hahn,
Aye.
Councilmember Myers,
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce,
Aye.
Councilmember Popson,
Nay.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Mayor Pounds.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2022-9, an ordinance adopting amendments to the official zoning map of the City of Isle of Palms to provide for a conservation recreation zoning district and to rezone certain properties from the SR1 and PDD districts to the new CR zoning district as shown on Exhibit 1.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Nicole?
Councilmember Goshen.
Aye.
Councilmember Han.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Nay.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Pounds.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2022-10. Settle in, this one's long, sorry. An ordinance amending the official zoning map of the City of Isle of Palms to rezone certain properties from the SR1 Single Family Residential Zoning District and PDD Plan Development Zoning District to the CR Conservation Recreation Zoning District, including the 12 properties designated as TMS number 571-00-00001, TMS number 604-01-00001, TMS number 604-01-00059, TMS number 571-08-00226, TMS number 604-00-00032, TMS number 604-00-00-033, TMS number 604-00-00034, TMS number 604-00-00-035, TMS number 604-00-00-036, TMS number 604-05-00-185, and TMS 604-10-00-206. One last, TMS 604-02-00-03 as shown on the plats attached as Exhibit 1.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Desiree, did I hit all those?
Almost.
Oh.
You missed one.
Last TMS number is
5-3.
604-0200-053.
5-3, you didn't say 5.
I'm 0 for 2. I missed it both times. Sorry. Nicole?
Councilmember Goshen.
Aye.
Councilmember Han.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Nay.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Pounds.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mayor Pounds, if you wanted to, whoever wants to make a motion for the next ones to waive the reading.
Like to make a
Approve and
motion
waive
to
the
pass,
reading.
yeah.
On all of them.
I make a motion to waive the readings on the
Second.
remaining two.
Second.
Is that good?
Yes, just trying to help you out.
I know, sorry. Ordinance 2022-11 is an ordinance amending Title V, Planning and Development, Chapter 4, Zoning, Article 2, District Regulations, Section 5-4-39, PDD Plan Development District of the City of Isle of Palms, Code of Ordinances to provide clarification by correcting Scrivener's errors and deleting provisions related to the Wild Dunes PRD.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you.
And waive the reading?
And waive the reading?
That.
That.
Nicole?
Councilmember Goshen.
Aye.
Councilmember Han.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Nay.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Pounds.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Last ordinance, 2022-12, an ordinance amending the City of Isle of Palms zoning ordinance by amending certain provisions of the original Beach and Racquet Club PRD, also known as the Wild Dunes PRD, to exclude certain properties from the PRD district, to reduce the maximum number of dwelling units permitted in the PRD district from 2,449 units to 2,119 units, and to reduce the maximum number of inn units permitted in the PRD district from 350 units to 297 units.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
Without reading.
Without reading?
Councilmember Goshen.
Aye.
Councilmember Han.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Councilmember Pierce.
Aye.
Councilmember Popson.
Nay.
Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Pounds.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. In regular order, we've got couple of special presentations. The first one is the Annual Employee of the Year Award, better known as the Leola Hanberry Award. This is in honor of a previous council person. We established the criteria for the Leola Hanberry Employee of the Year Recognition Award. Ms. Hanberry gifted the city over $25,000 to the city she loves so dearly in order to create the Employee of the Year Award. So this is a peer-nominated, council-nominated individual. It's a $500 award given annually to one employee displaying exemplary service, going above and beyond normal job requirements and expectations, demonstrated integrity, and a strong commitment to the city of Isle of Palms. And really proud to say this year our recipient is Debbie Suggs.
Speech.
I just want to say that I am very proud to receive this award. There are certainly many, many city employees who deserve it equally. There's a lot of hardworking people on the city staff. But I cared about Leola. She was a good friend, and I'm proud to receive this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Debbie, checks in the mail. Janice, we've got introduction of our new city employees, please.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I have 5 new hires that I'd like to introduce to you tonight. The first one is Erica Reckenzone. Can you join me? Erica is joining our fire department team. She is originally from Tom Rivers, New Jersey. Along with her passion for firefighting, she enjoys surfing, a variety of outdoor sports, and she's a strengthening and conditional coach to middle school to college-age athletes. If you hear her singing, it would be because she was a contemporary worship vocalist in her hometown and for the college that she attended. Welcome, Erica. Next is Aaron Perry. Aaron is joining our fire department as a recruit. He is currently attending, He's currently attending the Fire Academy in Mount Pleasant. Aaron comes from Lexington, South Carolina, and attended the Citadel. Yeah, Aaron has a kind of a nickname at the academy, I hear. Mr. Mayor? Have I heard that right? It appears that they need some extra time at the pool at the rec center in Mount Pleasant and the workout gym area, and he seems to be assisting that because he comes from the rec department at Mount Pleasant. Nice. Welcome, Aaron. Thank you. You're welcome. Jeremy Parker. Jeremy joins the police department also as a recruit. Jeremy is from Conway, South Carolina, where he attended Coastal Carolina University. When he was done graduating from there, he went into the United States Army, and when he left that position just recently, he ranked as sergeant. He enjoys a lot of outdoor activities, and he's a newlywed. He just got married. Congratulations. Welcome to the team. Dustin Griffin. Dustin is joining our police department as well. Dustin just moved recently from Colorado, where he was a police officer and a desk sergeant. Is that what you're doing? Okay, desk sergeant for Fort Carson. He also is in the reserves, and he is an instructor for active shooter training. Is that right?
Military police instructor. My specialties are active shooter training and room clearing.
Oh, so maybe we need him at the guard.
Yeah, we could use that.
We could use him. Dustin enjoys a lot of family time, and he has a fascinating hobby I have a lot of questions about. You have been collecting musical collections of stuff?
Collection of music since I was 12.
Give me an example of what you have.
Let's see, anything goes from the Cranberries to Santana to Gypsy Kings, from all generations, all languages. I love opera.
Oh.
I was in musical theater for 6 years, so I enjoy different types of opera, Andrew Lloyd Webber, stuff like that.
Well, thank you, and welcome. How can we compete with that? Next up is Ben Mize. Hi, Ben. Ben is joining the police department as well as a recruiter. You might recognize Ben. He was a BSO officer for the last 2 years for us. Turned 21, applied, and here he is today. He's currently going to the Coastal Carolina University, and he'll be planning to major in criminal justice. They're almost done? Oh, Charleston Southern. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
That was going to be quite a commute.
Yeah, sorry about that. He enjoys motorcycle riding. What type of motorcycles are you riding? They're riding bikes. Like dirt bikes? Yes, ma'am. Okay, dirt bikes. And traveling. And Ben is just extremely excited to be part of this team.
Same here. All right, our next item is approval of previous meetings minutes. We have City Council regular meeting October 25th, 22, public hearing on November 1st, 2022, and a special personnel meeting on November 1st, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any changes or additions, edits? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Nicole, I think Rusty dropped off if we're going to do any more roll call votes, so just FYI. Next item is item 5, old business, discussion and consideration of implementing a cost of living adjustment for city staff. You've got a sheet in your packet. We've talked about this last month, doing some type of adjustment, either a one-time adjustment, a combination, an ongoing. We discussed not wanting to increase our budget, by the current inflation rate, but balancing getting our employees some type of adjustment. We've included 3 options on a one-time number and 3 options on an ongoing number. And we've also included what other municipalities have done most recently with changes and adjustments that they've made with their pay structures. So, when we talked last time, my recommendation was to do some type of combination of a one-time adjustment and a smaller cost of living adjustment. But I'll just stop there and open this up for conversation and discussion. I'd like to get to a decision on this tonight because we need to have it effective for 1/1. So, comments, other options?
Well, first of all, let me just, Mr. Mayor, if I can, premise that, we want a compensation system that attracts the best and the brightest and retains them. But as I brought up last time, I think that we just did a 7.5% increase. I don't think we can lose sight of that. There's 2.5% merit increase into the budget that also will be given out. So, over the last year, it's 10%. And as I mentioned before, as you give an increase on a merit, it's a compounding effect. So as you can see on here, 2.5% increase, cost of living adjustment over 5 years is over $800,000. And I'd rather see us, the Fed is continuing raising interest rates. I think they've gone 5 times. They've announced another 50 basis points. I think they've said they'll probably do that in December. They've also said that they'll continue to increase rates, and they are solely determined to get inflation down. So we could very well be sitting here 6 months from now with inflation, significantly down from where it is. Not to say that we're not in a significant recession, which also concerns me around revenue generation. So I think the prudent thing, or the fiscally responsible thing to do from my standpoint, is to give a one-time adjustment, and let's look at this again in 6 months or so. And if we still see that inflation is where it is, then we can always give an additional cost of living adjustment. But I'd be in favor of giving adjustment, a one-time adjustment, similar to what it looks like that Charleston County and North Charleston have both done.
Is that a form of a motion?
Let's just keep discussing at this point.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. I'd just like to know how that will compare with the base salary we'll be advertising when vacancies come up throughout the year, if we give a one-time adjustment.
Yeah, it would not affect our salary ranges, certainly.
No, I meant compared to other cities. If we're offering $50,000 for a slot that the other cities that are giving a percentage increase might be offering $50,000 plus the $5,000 one-time bonus, adjustment would not come from, would not be offered to new positions that open throughout the year, would it?
No.
So it could be a lower amount that we'd be advertising. Would we get the candidates that we think we need to have, the quality of the candidates that way?
Well, I mean, let's remember what we did at the end of last year, first part of this year. I mean, we completely adjusted our wage scale and got it competitive, right? To John's point, roughly average 7.5% raise for folks early part of this year. That was an absolute catch-up with what we needed to do from a marketplace standpoint. So those ranges were adjusted at that point. If we did an ongoing adjustment for some type of cost of living, I mean, the ranges would be adjusted for that. Not the one time, but certainly any type of ongoing cost of living adjustment.
I guess what I'm talking about is if we caught up with the big increase that we got, would we be falling behind again as everybody else is giving a 5%, 8%, 7% increase in their salaries?
Yeah. Desiree, do you have any
Well,
insight?
after we spent about a year, all of last year, evaluating wage and comp, comparing to our peers in competitive market, that was the result of
that year-long process and the implementation of those adjustments that were effective early this year was to get us to a place where we were offering competitive wages. As other communities, and you can see in your packet, are implementing cost of living adjustments and increases, that will be something that will shift where our salary ranges are, and we would be behind if we don't keep up. Clearly, some of these communities have not made adjustments like we did early this year. So it would be another analysis to fully understand, are they doing this to catch up like we did early this year?
That's my question, yeah.
But I do know that several communities in the past couple of years have made wage and compensation analysis because everybody's struggling recruit and retain good employees. Everybody's competing with each other. So that's just something that we have to be aware of, not falling behind, and then we find ourselves in 2 or 3 years struggling to retain and finding ourselves in another position like we were early this year, having to play catch up to make sure we have competitive wages.
Right.
Scott?
Yeah, I would prefer to err a little bit more on a larger lump sum and provide I think we'd be providing a full year impact now if we gave a larger lump sum. Everybody would be receiving it now instead of spreading out over the year. I think the merit is also effective, is it January?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so that's coming quickly. That's another 2.5%. That would maybe buy us a little time. I do believe that all the forecasts are pointing towards a recession next year at some point in time. This will just give us a little bit of, I guess, of runway. And I think that if we give a little bit of a larger lump sum now, we've got the 2.5% coming in January. We can reevaluate this in the March timeframe and see if the Fed is successful in pushing the inflation down. So I would like to see that happen.
Yeah. Kevin, sorry. I don't disagree with any of the comments on where life might be headed. I feel strongly the other way. I think we need to do a combination personally. I mean, I think we need to get something in people's paychecks to help deal with the inflation world that's out there today, right now. And I think the combination of a lump sum and a lower COLA protects the city's budget from a run rate standpoint. I think, I'm tired of losing people for a couple of $1,000s because they don't want to drive out here anymore. I think we have got to step up and do something. And that's why I think a lower COLA, protects our run rate. Scott and John, I don't disagree with your comments at all. But I think we may be looking at a very significantly different economic environment next year if you believe any of the pundits that sit out there and prognosticate. But I think a lower COLA would do that.
So just for the math, we're looking at, let's say we did the 5,000 one time, we'd be looking at a difference of approving a $584,000 approval or a $1.4 million approval is what I'm guessing, or what I'm seeing here, over the 5-year period.
All right, help me with your math.
Okay, so if I look at the one-time 5,000,
Yep.
that's totaling, and this is assuming some vacancies, $584,000. So that would be if we did the one time without the 2.5% additional COLA. If we add the 2.5% additional COLA, we're adding another $823,000 to our 5-year totals.
Got it.
So it's the difference between $584,000 and $1.4 million. It's quite a draft. Yeah. We just should know that.
Yep. Katie.
And that I'm sorry, and one additional thing, we're going to do a 2.5% in January, which is going to add that 823 back in over the 5-year period.
I just feel like looking at the other cities, if even assuming or even accounting for the 2.5 that's coming in January, I mean, the lowest is 2% for the COLA of the cities around us. I just think that we're going to be, as the mayor said, we're going to be losing good employees, and I think that loss is more valuable than really any. I mean, obviously we have to be able to afford it, but I think having good employees is more than just a dollar sign on the page. So,
I just one point, if I may, to Councilmember Pierce's comment. These cost estimates do assume the 2.5 that's included in the budget. So that it's built into that total number is the budgeted and forecasted 2.5 for merit. So it's not an additional to that.
But I think if I understood, the mayor was suggesting that we do we do the one time and and an additional 2.5, and then you'll get another 2.5 in January. So it's 5%. We're talking a one time plus 5% if we add the 2 raises. Is that correct?
I just
Okay.
want to make sure for the record that the numbers that you're seeing, the cost estimates that you're seeing include that 2.5 component for merit.
Yeah, Scott, just to be clear, the 2.5 COLA would be across the board, flat, everybody gets the same number.
Correct.
Merit, I mean, you have to finish some performance reviews and, maybe 1%, maybe 4% for somebody, but the budget is 2.5% pool that people have to spread.
No, I understand that. All I'm saying is if we do the one time, which is the 5,000, I'm just picking the 5,000 column, it's a half, 584,000. Then we do a 2.5 special COLA. If I'm reading that right, it's 823,000 over 5 years. If we do another 2.5% in January and another 5 years, over 5 years, it's going to be another roughly $823,000.
If you do not implement a COLA now, the expense over 5 years is going to be half of 823, 400,000. So that 823,000 number that you have.
You're saying it's both
It
of
is
them.
built in.
So that's really it's the 5%. It's the 2.5 and the 2.5.
Correct.
Okay.
Every
So then
option
it's
already
okay.
includes
Got
the
it.
2.5
So
for merit.
we basically, the 2.5 that we're looking at would actually, is really a 5.5. Or a five,
It's a
sorry,
5.
Yeah.
Correct. I mean,
Got it.
all of the numbers already include embedded to them the 2.5 that's for performance-based adjustments.
For instance, if another city was looking at us and had the same box that we have, it would say 5% COLA for, if, assuming we went with option number 3. They would look at us and say, oh, they had a 5% increase COLA.
Well,
They could.
they could.
In reality, yes.
I will
That's
say,
right.
though, that the numbers that
Sorry,
you
Jim.
have under the survey of recent pay adjustments, that is only the COLA component that municipalities are implementing. Most of them already also include a merit component to that.
So if I look at the benchmark, it says Mount Pleasant did 2%. They did 2% COLA, but they didn't do it one time.
Mount Pleasant did a 2%, but an excellent employee that had a really great performance evaluation would and could get a maximum of 5% because they also
That's
include
merit
a
or that's
merit.
COLA? Okay.
Correct, a combination of merit and COLA.
Jimmy.
I was wondering if I could ask the city treasurer to come talk to us a little bit, some really simple questions about cash flow. Yeah, I promise. Debit's on the left, credit's on the right.
Let me get my calculator.
I just have a couple questions. So it doesn't have to be anywhere close to perfect, but just what is, we're going to get to this later, but I think it's important if we're going to make a move on this tonight, which the mayor has mentioned, about the unrestricted cash balances that we have.
They're 35 million roughly.
Unrestricted.
Not unrestricted, probably about half that number's unrestricted.
Probably less.
So of the city's total cash is $35 million.
Debbie.
Right.
The end of September.
Debbie, can
Debbie.
you speak into the mic, please?
sorry.
Thank you.
As of the end of October, $35 million. Of that total, there's 2.6 million that's unspent bond proceeds.
Right.
2.2 million is unspent federal ARP funding, which can be used for salaries. And 15.5 million is restricted for either tourism-related expenditures or beach preservation.
So that leaves about, what, between 10 and 12? 10, 15 unrestricted?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. just some recent reporting history on tourism-related funds. I know that earlier in the year, we were seeing large increases, even beating before COVID numbers with accommodations tax and hospitality tax, beach renourishment, and those typical funds. Are you still seeing that trend, Debbie?
We'll talk about that later in my report. It's interesting, the first quarter we received from state accommodations taxes shows a pretty significant increase over the same quarter in the prior year. The municipal accommodations fee is trending down a little bit in the last couple of months. Some of that I think is timing. There's a taxpayer or two who's apparently late making those payments. And the other thing is that there is a significant taxpayer, an internet-based taxpayer that pays the state accommodations tax but does not pay the municipal. And the city's participating in a lawsuit against that entity that got slowed down because of COVID. But I suspect that the group of municipalities that includes Charleston County and other local cities and towns will be successful in that suit. So,
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
and the way that the city has typically used accommodations-related monies to fund salaries
Right.
is there's a certain number of police officers and a certain number of firefighters that we transfer accommodations tax money into the general fund to cover those expenses.
Right,
But
I
it's a
think- yeah.
relatively low number of total city employees that we fund with accommodations taxes.
Right, but that is relevant, and I'd like to make a motion at this time to, since if we want, or are we trying to make a move on this salary tonight? I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of order to get the financial reports at this time.
You're on a roll.
Well, I think it's pertinent
I agree.
information.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So Amy, can y'all bring those up for financial reports? Wow, speak it. Happens. All right, Debbie.
All right,
Sue.
so we are a third of the way through the fiscal year. General fund revenues are at $2.2 million collected. Expenses are $3.9 million. Business licenses and building permits continue to show significant gains over the prior year to date, which they had a great year last year. Rental license revenue is significantly less than the prior year, but that's because FY '22 included that extra 6-month license period that was required to align the city's rental license renewal period with the state standard. So last year was an anomaly. General fund expenditures are approximately 4% below the target for this period in the year. But it is some 13% higher than last year. And a good chunk of that 13% is the impact of the compensation study that those increases that went into effect January 22.
Debbie, do you happen to know roughly what our total payroll is?
It's close to 80% of our expenses, isn't it, Debbie?
Right.
But, well, everything, the payroll and all the benefits and the retirements and everything goes with it.
I've got my
It's vast, the lion's share of our budget.
Start of the budget, summary of personnel costs and FTEs. So the FY '23 budget includes $9.2 million. So you can see that the city's total expenditure budget is, I can't see that, 13 million. So 9.2 is total compensation. That includes fringes.
And retirement.
Retirement.
And they, also, one last thing on that is the balance sheet account that that covers the pension liability. That's funding that also, isn't it? That liability account.
So I think what you're referring to is the city's portion of the state's unfunded
Funded.
liability for retirement.
Correct.
And that is a part of the city's government-wide financial statements that the auditors are going to present in December. It is a mandated presentation by the accounting rules, but it's not included in the city's balance sheet that I typically share on a monthly basis.
Right, right.
We don't book that big liability in the
Right.
city's general ledger. They just add it at the end to the government-wide statement of position.
Yeah, that's a big number though.
What's your question, Jimmy? How much is it?
Just unfunded
Yeah.
pension liability. It's like, they just changed the.
It's
That's about 10.
millions of dollars.
About 4 years ago.
It's about 10 million.
Yeah, and it's like if everybody could get a pension benefit, they all lined up and we had to cash out. The accounting rules changed to where, the governmental accounting rules changed to where that has to be shown on the balance sheet. And when you see the balance sheet, the audited financial statements, it's gonna leap out at you. But it's
really a footnote.
It's right, it's not really a number, a real number, but.
Well, it is a real number.
But it is a real number.
It's a real number, Jimmy.
Nobody's gonna line up,
That's
you
a
know.
real number.
It is the current present value of the benefits that the retirement system is committed to, less the funds they have on hand.
Right,
But
well,
the state of South Carolina would basically have to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
well, we're getting off
Yeah, let's
track,
keep
and that's my
rocking.
fault, Debbie. I'm just trying to see a general trend in revenues coming in from not only during the COVID-19, but before that. And seeing if we can afford to do these.
Yeah, so long as
These
you
things for
keep going
employees.
through your schedule, and I think we'll
Okay.
get there,
Yeah.
Jimmy, when
Right.
you see some of the
Yeah,
tourism
yeah.
numbers.
So we talked briefly, next page, Amy. Talked briefly about cash balances already. 35 million total cash. 33 of that, almost 34 of that is on deposit at the LGIP, and the interest rate for this month was 3.24%. A little under 2 million locally for operating cash.
Tripled.
Fund balances, which kind of take into account current liabilities as well as current cash. You can see that the current fund balance is $32 million. The budget assumes that the fund balance will go down to 28. But that's, the city's conservative budget, so we assume low on the revenues and high on the expenditures. The city typically would beat that fund balance estimate by the end of the year. We did receive, or the city received, the second tranche of the ARPA funds. That's the COVID relief money that came from the federal government. So the total amount received was $2.17 million. It's all on the balance sheet of the Capital Projects Fund as a deferred revenue. So it's not included in the revenue numbers you're seeing on page 1. And then the other thing I wanted to mention just about normal operations in October, we did expend $108,000 related to preparation and mostly cleanup related to Hurricane Ian. The largest portion of that expense was $102,000 paid to a local contractor for debris removal. Do you want to talk about
Keep going.
accommodations
Yep.
money? Okay, moving on, municipal accommodations tax. Here's where you can see that trend I mentioned. The September amount received was $188,000 roughly. Again, I think there's a taxpayer that's late So that will, a portion of that will make up, but you can see the month before we were also below last year's August. But this is after we had an extraordinary FY '22. So it's almost like FY '23 here is getting a little bit back to normal. But then if you, next page, you can see, and I mentioned this earlier too, the state accommodations tax. We get that on a quarterly basis. The taxes, municipal and state, should be calculated on the same base revenue. And the time periods are a little skewed. So next page for the state. You can see that the quarter receipt, this is the tourism-related portion only, is $952,000 compared to $861 in FY '22 and $553 in FY '21. So big growth in the state sales tax. And you can see that this represents heads in beds June through August, which is a slightly different time period than what we were looking at on the municipal side. No receipts yet from Charleston County, but I would imagine it would be similar to FY '22 when those monies are collected. On hospitality tax, you can see an increasing trend every month. Hospitality tax is increasing, which makes sense. All the restaurants are doing great business, and we have new facilities in Wild Dunes that are providing food and beverage. So 19% increase there. Beach preservation fee mirrors the municipal accommodations tax, so we'll just skip over that and go to local option sales tax. We've got 2 months to report, and the trend is higher than it was in FY '22, 7% ahead year to date. So other than that municipal accommodations kind of decline, that's partially explained by timing, all the other tourism-related and local option sales tax revenues are increasing over prior year.
Thank you, Debbie. Oh, Debbie, sorry, you got,
You want me to do the project worksheet while I'm up
finish it
here?
up. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're knocking out.
Drainage Phase 3, not much to report. I think it's just some additional professional services related to bidding and construction admin for the 30th and 36th Avenue outfalls. Still $1.9 million unspent on the contracts for those outfall projects.
Kevin.
Since we're not reporting it anymore, I'm assuming that on the marina, the docks, and the public safety, we've all paid, all retainage, everything's been paid for, we're all done.
Yes,
We
sir.
released the bond.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
I just want to, kind of provide a little bit of context to this conversation. Obviously, it's a big decision and it's something that's very important to the community. When we look at the strategic plan that was adopted by council earlier this year, one of the 6 goals that were included in that plan was to improve employee retention, valuing our employees, and reducing turnover. And the way we do that is by investing in our people infrastructure. We are a service industry. We need people to provide services in this community, and I think that Owl Palms deserves and expects the highest level of service. And the way we do that is by having competitive salaries. And at the end of the day, we are competing with other communities. Most of our employees, 91 of 92, do not live on the island. They live in Somerville, they live in Goose Creek, and, they are making decisions. Even if, our police officers get a take-home car, they have to be in traffic for maybe an hour and a half. So, our folks are facing these decisions when they come to work for our community, and we're very proud of the work culture that we've developed, but it is something that needs to be maintained, and we don't want to find ourselves 2-3 years from now playing catch up again, because we find ourselves with high turnover, not quality employees, just hiring whoever's willing to come work. And that's certainly not the culture I think that we want to maintain in our community, and the culture that residents expect. So I think it's an important decision, and one that needs to be done very thoughtfully. And I think that the options that are presented do that. It is something that needs to be maintained, and not, we can't take our eye off the ball, because we then, again, we're gonna be behind.
Mr.
So,
Mayor, are you looking, in your recommendation, are you looking at the one-time 3,000 plus the 2.5? Is that?
I would lean to the 5,000 and 2.5 personally.
Can I just clarify that a $5,000 one-time is 9% increase?
on average.
Average.
Yeah, so you'd be adding 2.5 merit, 9% with a one-time plus 2.5%. So you're talking, 12% or some number of total increase. I think that's beyond any market that we've seen, and would be irresponsible, personally. I could be bought off on a $1,500 one-time and a 2.5% COLA. And that's a 5% total increase, and we look at it again. But to go above I think we already reset our compensation where we're at the highest right now. That's what's the 7.5%. That's why we maintained a 2.5%. No other community has gone that high. In fact, Mount Pleasant is at 2% COLA. And I don't see how we can recommend, some 12% increase on a cost of living adjustment that most likely is going to go down before the next 6 months.
Yeah, just a quick clarification. Our salary ranges at a point in time at the end of last year were in a good spot. But I think most of these municipalities have done adjustments that certainly aren't reflected here, to Desiree's point, that we need to keep up with what's going on. And, again, you can make the comment that, when people come here, they know where we are, and they know it's going to take an hour to get here. But, yeah, I feel strongly that we need to do something for our folks, and we need to continue to do something for our staff to keep who we have and to attract who we want.
Well, I think, Mr. Mayor, if I may, that we have a tremendous opportunity here to do just that. And appreciate council going along with the suspension of rules to get the financial picture. We can certainly afford it. And,
So what do you recommend?
Kevin.
I'm waiting on a motion from the mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with you and Councilwoman Myers on we need to do whatever we can with the staff. The staff is our lifeblood and keeps us going. And, who knows what the future's going to hold, but I do know right now it's not fun going to the grocery store and or the gas station. So I'd like to make a motion that we do the one-time $5,000 and the 2% COLA.
Second.
Did you say 2 or 2.5?
2.5.
2.5, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Got a motion and a second.
Second and a half.
Other comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Councilmember Bogosian and Councilmember Pierce. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item B, discussion of recommendation from the Personnel Committee for the City Attorney and Assistant City Attorney. John, you want to update the crowd?
So at the direction of City Council, staff issued two RFPs for both the City Attorney and the Assistant City Attorney. The deadline for those RFP submissions was October 14th. The Personnel Committee met on October 18th to review the RFPs and agreed to interview all the applicants, which were, for City Attorney, it was Brent Halverson with Halverson and Halverson. It was Mac McKillen with Hainsworth, Sinclair, and Boyd. It was David Jennings with Rosen Haygood. And for the Assistant City Attorney, it was Elliot Condon with Hainsworth, Sinclair, and Boyd, and Tim Mueller with Rosen Haygood. The interviews were conducted on November 1st by the Personnel Committee. The committee unanimously approved to recommend to City Council to award the city attorney position to Mac McKillen with Hainsworth, Sinclair, and Boyd. The committee felt that that Hainsworth's breadth of service, Mac's experience with municipalities, and his responses to the interview questions put him in the lead position and is the basis for our recommendation. I will also note that Hainsworth's fees were significantly lower relative to the other applicants. As for the city attorney, assistant city attorney, we only received 2 applicants. There's no real sense of urgency to fill the position, so we are recommending to repost the RFP after the first of the year. These both will be voted on at the December 6th council meeting, where we make appointments for the next year.
Questions, comments, thoughts?
Is there a motion?
No, we don't.
No.
We'll vote on it on the 6th.
Okay.
Which is required by code.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Next item, C, update on SCDOT's IOP connector study. We were hopeful that the engineering firm was going to be here tonight to present the 6, 8, 10 options, whatever they're going to come back with, for restrapping the connector. They weren't quite ready to pull that off yet, so we have them scheduled hopefully for the December 6th meeting. You know, with the SCDOT, in my opinion, we continue to make really good progress with all the projects we currently have going with them, the bridge study, the full connector study. 25th Avenue is finally fixed where those folks can get in and out of their driveways without a canoe of some form. And that was the SCDOT work along with our Public Works folks. Palm Boulevard design options, which should be the next project on the list, and very much looking forward to the report in December. You know, when SCDOT comes with the consulting firm to present that to us as far as the options that are there. Desiree, anything to add from your view before we
No,
open up?
we are hopeful and expecting a presentation from the SCDOT at the December meeting. There's been a lot of work that has been done. As you all know, we engage a traffic engineer that is working on our behalf with DOT engineers and the consultant. And the goal and the expectation is that the consultant will bring several options to this community, presented to council, and then there will be a public comment period where those options will be presented to the community in a way that they can provide feedback and ultimately agree on a resolution for the connector that's agreed on by both parties, and we can move
Prior
forward.
to next season.
Prior to next
Yep.
season. That was the original goal.
Jan?
Mr. Mayor, I am pleased that SCDOT is collaborating with us on evaluating alternative alignments for the IOP connector. This is what we asked for, and this is what we are getting. In the December meeting, we'll see the alternatives, a number of alternatives. They will be presented to the public, and the community will have an opportunity to give input as to which they prefer. I think we're back on track with SCDOT. The meeting almost got derailed because of actions by local residents who filed a lawsuit against SCDOT in South Carolina Supreme Court. It was difficult for outsiders to tell the difference between private citizens and public officials' actions. SCDOT was under the impression that the city was the source of the lawsuit. Let me make it clear. The city of Isle of Palms is not party to any lawsuit filed in South Carolina Supreme Court against SCDOT. We are in a good place with SCDOT right now and have 2 ongoing projects and 1 under discussion. Not only the striping of the connector, but that I'd also under contract is the retiming of the signals of 3 or 4 of the signals along the Isle of Palms connector, all the way down to almost to 17. And that is under contract and being conducted now. The traffic counts were done in the summer, which is, of course, what we want, because that's our busy time and that's the time that'll solve our problem. And that will really help traffic flow on and off the island on those busy weekends. You'll see a remarkable difference. You've seen some small changes now because they've tweaked the signal here on the island for us. They did a little bit at Rifle Range Road last year as well, but this is a full-blown study that'll really make a difference in that. We really want this to continue, and we really need our cooperation to make sure it happens. There's also a third study that's being discussed now, which is not under contract yet, but it's a discussion to evaluate Palm Boulevard between 21st and 41st Avenue. I think we're back on track with South Carolina DOT, and I hope we can keep it there. I am pleased with our progress and collaboration with SCDOT and look forward to a continuing good working relationship with the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Scott?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I think it's in our best interest to keep collaborating with SCDOT, especially on future infrastructure and funding as well. I think they've been stepping up a little bit as far as authorizing on their dime to do the additional study for Palm Boulevard. And I think that, I'm anxious to see what they come back with on the connector solutions as well.
Thank you.
And that's going to be in December?
Yes, December 6th meeting is the plan. Yep. Other questions, thoughts? Thank you. Next item is update from Real Property Committee on discussions of parking layouts for the intercoastal side of the marina to eliminate shared parking area and establish city parking and green space area and consolidate, expand Islander 71's exclusive parking lot. Kevin, you want to update us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you recall at the last council meeting, the Real Property Committee came with a recommendation of the Plan C. Since the markers 116 wanted Plan E, we also recommended that we allow their expert to look at other options. So council decided to send this back to Real Property. At our last Real Property meeting, they presented Plan G, which had some really good features. However, some of the committee wanted more resident boat trailer parking, hoping to have at least 10 spots. So a few days ago, we received from Marker 116's expert plans G1, G2, and G3. Since we really haven't had a chance to review these, I would recommend that this item just be sent back to Real Property for more discussion to bring back to council. I want to apologize. We keep going back and forth to the drawing board on this, but we want to come up with a plan that is in the best interest of our residents, of course, and the residents as well. So I think it needs to go back to Real Property if you're okay.
Desiree, anything to add
No,
from your
he
view?
did a great job.
Yeah.
And I
All
think we, at Real Property, we anticipated that anyway, so that was.
As that next step.
Sorry, yeah, it would come back to Real Property one more time.
We're going to run out of alphabet at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's why we started using the numbers.
Unless we get back into Plan H.
I like it. Kevin, you're on a roll. Next item is discussion of evaluation of installation of an elevator in the new Marina restaurant.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, to continue our ongoing effort to figure out how to get an elevator in the restaurant, staff had Trident Construction investigate the possibility of installing an elevator. Trident has determined a location for the elevator, but gave us an estimate of about $300,000 to $350,000. At the Real Property Committee meeting, the discussion was the estimate obviously was high, at least we thought. And we sort of discussed what steps that can be done to value engineer this, reduce cost. So we landed on asking staff to investigate the cost of hiring an engineer to develop the construction plans and specs so that we can prepare for an RFP and go out for bid to get other bids and costs. So once again, I would like to take this back to Real Property so we can continue to discuss this. And I believe we will leave this on our agenda until we get some kind of budget from staff, if that's okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. From what Councilman Pounds, excuse me, from what I've heard, it sounds like the city is going to be paying for this elevator. Is that accurate? Are we required to pay for the elevator based on the lease?
No.
I don't think
No.
so.
I think the motion that was made back in November was to explore the feasibility and also explore whether or not that would be an expenditure that would be eligible under accommodations accommodation taxes. And that's a question we have not yet fully looked at from a legal perspective, whether it would be an eligible expense. I think that that's going to be part of your conversation as the policy setting body, once we know how much it's going to cost, its feasibility, and whether or not it fits operationally with the restaurant.
Blair, does that answer your question? Yeah.
And just to be clear, so what we are going to be doing is issuing an RFP and getting proposals from engineers that will be able to put some more concrete drawings and plans and estimates so that we can value engineer and see exactly how much it would cost. And my recommendation is that we go through that process. We're going to be starting the budget process in January, so in a couple months. And once we know what the expense of that design would be, then we can include it in the budget and work through it as part of our next budget cycle.
Yeah. So again, both these items will go back to real property and come back with a recommendation to council.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Desiree, anything else on those two topics? You
No,
good?
no, sir.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Item F, discussion and consideration of Planning Commission's proposed short-term rental regulations and consideration of imposing a 6-month moratorium on the issuance of short-term rental license to allow time for council to thoroughly review the recommendations and resident feedback. And I just want to be really clear the way this is worded. This was not from the Planning Commission, the moratorium at all. The Planning Commission, in your packet, is their recommendations on the zones and the caps and the percentages and such. So a couple of conversations with other council members to get to the moratorium language. And again, just to be ultra clear, we would not be implementing, if we went down this path, a moratorium tonight. We would just be instructing staff to, because it's ordinances, it's 2 readings, you know the drill. So this is just conversation, so I'll just open it up for any discussion that anybody might want to have. Jan?
Mr. Mayor, I think that a moratorium on short-term rentals licenses at this point is a great idea. I know we've had quite a few more rental license applications this year than we have in the past, and we think it's because we've been discussing it for a while and people are running out to get a license even if they're not planning on using it right away. So if we want to have a full discussion of short-term rentals, we need to give us breathing room to do that, and the best way is just to put a moratorium just for 6 months, and then we'll be able to decide this, I think, without having to feel enormous pressure.
Yeah. John?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I happened to meet with the mayor of Folly Beach on their whole situation with short-term rentals. And they're a real crisis, I guess, from his standpoint. They're at almost 60% short-term rentals. It's growing in the last 2 to 3 years pretty significantly. They're at a point where it's hard to corral for them right now. They made a proposal. Council voted it down pretty quickly. They had a 27-second discussion on it, voted, and it failed. The residents then rose up, much like our residents did on the ordinances. They have a petition where they submitted to the council in the city. It's actually with the Charleston validating all the signatures. But it's going to force council to deal with it one way or another, and I think the way they're dealing with it is they can either vote or they're going to put it on a referendum, and they're going to end up putting it to a referendum. But one of the things Mayor Goodwin suggested very highly is that we look at doing this moratorium. As you talk about, as we discuss, we've really not had a discussion about this at council, and we've been through a process, I think, of letting the Planning Commission have it. They've given us a proposal. We've gone through listening sessions and such, but we've really not debated or had any kind of discussion as part of this council. And as we do that, I think it's prudent for us to draw, at least put a line in the sand where we are, because as you remember, the Planning Commission gave a recommendation to go 10% above 2020 levels, and we're already there. So it's going to put a stop on kind of for while we discuss this, and either it ends in 6 months or it ends whenever we decide on it. It's shorter than that, but this council probably won't have any discussions in earnest on this until January of '23.
And John, your conversations with Mayor Goodwin, I know they have some exceptions, I think, on their moratorium to kind of create a safety net. Do I remember this right? Or am I making that up?
No, I'm not familiar with
Okay.
any of that. No.
Okay. And Douglas, I know we had an initial spike in late summer on licenses. What's kind of happening day to day right now?
So we do, each time you all talk about it or there's a planning commission discussion on it, inevitably we get kind of 10 more here and there, but that's now been going on for 6 months. So the most recent is 1605. That's probably kind of 200 above where we think it would probably naturally be. So it's getting up there.
But again, what's happening in the last, pick a number, 60 days or so? I mean,
Probably 10 to 15, kind of
so
each
we've had
month.
the spike.
Yep.
Leveled off a little bit.
I would also say that I don't think that properties are truly transitioning into rentals. I think it is primarily people getting a license to protect some right that they feel like they may lose. But keep in mind that all of the proposals that came from the Planning Commission recommended a mechanism to carve those out eventually. That, if you're not truly renting it, you shouldn't be keeping room under the room under that cap. So all of them would expect those that are getting them really to lose their license unless they're legitimately renting it.
Yeah. Jimmy?
I thought we just got through these listening sessions, and then we had these round tables where people sat and they gave their opinions. And my understanding of the reports of it, that the people just rejected messing with the short-term rentals. Just leave it alone. I don't remember anything where one of the options was a 6-month moratorium. This is all brand new to me when I saw this on the agenda. We're got our hands in people's pockets. Some people are doing deals right now where people are trying to buy a property and trying to line up financing and stuff. Is happening. I've talked to a couple people today about it. That is all hinging on what happens with this moratorium, whether the deal is going to go through or not. And it's just surprising to me that this is coming back up. I thought that the citizens sent us a clear message that they wanted us to leave them alone.
I think, at least for me, the reason that I think that this makes the most sense is because of Folly Beach. And if Folly passes something the next couple, soon, I would assume, then I feel like it would be, that would make us the last ones, and it would put us in a vulnerable position. So I think that it would be 6 months, give us a chance to see what happens with Folly, use that as just more data, and I don't think it's it's 6 months. Yes, there are probably some people that will be affected in those 6 months, but it's not forever.
Were you asking for action tonight?
No. Well, the only action would be to direct staff if we wanted to have them draft ordinances. I mean, again, nothing would be implemented tonight by any stretch, but it would just be direct staff to.
Yeah, a moratorium would need to be enacted by ordinance, which would be 2 readings. So you all could direct us to go in that direction and bring back to you all some ordinances to consider at a later meeting.
We have a meeting on the 6th, correct?
Correct.
So that's 22 days from now. That's 3 weeks from now. I would suggest maybe we think about not doing anything with the direction at this point. This is brand new news for a lot of people, and let it get out to the public and see what feedback we get from them. And that's 3 weeks.
Jan.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say something about the listening sessions that we had before. They were done before council had debated what we are talking about when we talk about a short-term rental cap. People were thinking, I went to a neighborhood meeting, I think it must have been Labor Day weekend, just a get-together on the street. And I'm standing around talking to people, and they said, well, you're going to take our licenses away. No, we're not intending to do that, but it hadn't been spoken about. They were said, well, what if my daughter wants to buy the house? Does she get the license? We haven't discussed that yet. I think we would probably let that happen. All of the things that they were worried about are things that, as a council, we haven't discussed to see if we could incorporate them. Things like, will residents get first priority? That seems something that's really important to me, is that if we're going to have rentals on the island, let's make sure it's the residents that are benefiting from them and not some corporation on the other side of the country. So I think we really do need time to study this and bring the whole picture to the community and give them choices, not just, do you like this name short-term rental or not? And I think that's what we will get with the 6-month moratorium, is time to look at this more closely and see how we can manage things on this island to keep the quality of life that we just argued about for the earlier part of the meeting. That's so important.
Scott?
Yeah, I think that all we're doing tonight is directing staff to draft the ordinance, and the clock starts ticking. There's no ordinance in place. So I think, Jimmy, to your point, there's still some time here. It'll allow us to address it at the December 6th meeting. I think we all want to try to protect the local owner-operators as we go through this, but this will give us time. Right now, we've spent 15, 18 months, and we haven't done anything as far as a decisive move from the council here. And I think this gives us the 6 months to be able to digest all that information and actually come out the other end with some kind of a decision. So I would like to move that we direct staff to draft the ordinance, and we can address it at maybe first reading at December 6th meeting for a 90-day, 6-month moratorium on short-term rental licenses.
A second.
Are there any exceptions that you all want us to include as part of the ordinance? The Folly model included a list of exceptions. I can't name them all right now, but if you all are concerned about a particular issue, please let us know that could be carved out into the ordinance for you all to consider, if there's any specific exceptions you want to allow.
I mean, Desiree, and that's what I was remembering from the Folly. I thought theirs was very well done, because it was a really nice safety net for people that might be in the middle of construction or might have a CO coming into their hands in a month, or, I mean, I can't remember the exact pieces.
You should
but I
get
thought
theirs.
model
Get a
was
copy of
model
it.
it
We
model
have
it after
one.
that.
We've looked at it.
Yeah, model it after that one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do we voting on it, or?
We're just
Yeah.
voting on the direction,
Okay.
giving staff
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Other comments, questions? Kevin?
Since I'm probably not the most liked guy in this room because of my belief in property rights, here we go down the road again. I've gotten at least 12 emails from resident realtors that are losing deals over just the thought of a moratorium. And that's affecting the sellers, who are our residents, and it's affecting the buyers, who are going to be our residents. So I think we're causing trouble again right now, and whether that can be carved out or not, I don't know, but I'm definitely opposed.
Other thoughts, comments? Nope. So we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Councilmember Ward, what did you, I didn't hear.
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, so Councilmember
Hobson
Hobson, Ward, and
and
Hahn said nay. Thank you.
Next item is new business. We've done the financial statements, capital projects update. Desiree?
I'm looking for it. Give me 1 second. I have my notes here. This is the most exciting part of the meeting.
Yeah.
This is where we get to talk about all the projects.
Bring it on.
Are you still Tom Schmidt?
Desiree, they are interested in your projects. Don't take it personally. Yeah.
Doing the weeds, apparently.
All right, so we'll get started with the project at 30th and 36th Avenue. A lot of progress has happened in the past several months. As y'all know, there was some slight delay after the hurricane. A lot of our workers had, the contractors had gone back to Florida. They're back, and essentially the work on both
John, next page, if you don't mind.
the work at 30th and 36 has been completed all the way up to the road. So the work that's comes next is the installation of the box culverts, and that's when we're going to have to do some road detours and road closures. Right now, our engineers are actively working with the Water and Sewer Commission. They're evaluating some solutions on ways to better protect their water and sewer lines. Those discussions may end up in a change order that will have to come before you all for approval. So that's what we're working on currently. In addition to that, the box culvert that's going to be installed at the 36th Avenue drainage ditch is very large, and the engineers and the contractors are working on a solution to try to mitigate that, whether or not they produce a modular option that could be built in on site, or how to transport that big piece of to the site. So that's currently in the works. We have communicated to the contractor that we want to give as much time as possible to the community. Any notices of road closures. Luckily, we're in the off season, and that should, and we're going to be off of hurricane season, which was a concern that we had with our evacuation routes. So that should play out really nicely. So more to come on that. Nothing new on 41st Avenue. We still don't have permits, full permits. Still waiting on those. They keep talking about the backlog that they have with lack of personnel to review these permit applications. So we're still pursuing those. Next project, comprehensive drainage master plan. Davis and Floyd has finished the first draft of the report. We've been looking at a final report by the end of the year. We're tracking in that direction. We are meeting with them next week to reevaluate the draft report and then come back with their recommendations to City Council. Next project, the underground utility conversion at 21st and Palm. There was a little bit of a delay with our initial timeline. There was a easement agreement that needed to be executed between the church and Dominion Energy. That we've learned has finally been executed. So that was the last piece that Dominion Energy needed to let the contractors submit a project schedule for construction. So we're still hoping that this is going to be done in the off season. We're in the fall. We just haven't gotten a concrete start date yet, but that is coming.
Will that cause any road closings?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, pickleball court construction and outdoor basketball courts. Our staff has had a kickoff meeting with the contractor. They were planned to start construction in December, but we've received notice that because of other projects that they have that have been delayed, they're starting with us early January. However, the completion date is still scheduled for before the season, early March, which was our goal. So that's going to be moving along, and folks are going to be seeing some progress shortly. Next page. Marina Public Dock and Green Space. We, as y'all remember, last month, City Council approved the award of a contract for the bulkhead work and the installation of a 6-foot boardwalk along the entire length of the bulkhead along the Intercoastal Waterway. That's been executed, and we expect them to start construction soon. We're still working through real property committee in the different parking layout options that we have for the intercoastal side of the marina. Those conversations have been fruitful, and we're hopeful that we are very close on a final plan that would allow us to fully develop that entire area north of the boat ramp. ATM has provided to us the draft permit that will be submitted for the public dock. This is the full rehabilitation of the public dock, expansion of the pier, and all that. So we're reviewing that as we speak, and we're hopeful that that will be submitted. Our goal would be by the end of this week. Anything else, Douglas, on that?
No.
Okay. And then the 34A, this is the installation of an ADA compliant boardwalk at 34A Beach Access Path and the construction of 2 handicap ADA accessible parking spaces along Palm Boulevard. They have begun construction. They're on site grading and materials have been delivered. So that'll be completed very soon in several weeks. And then the last project that we have to update you all is the commercial garbage compactor. They've been moving really, really quick. The foundation is complete. Walls are gonna come up by the end of this week. So we expect that project to be completed very, very soon, which will be great so that we can get, you know, a new system in place that will help our business community and kind of mitigate some of the concerns that they've had with garbage there. So we're very excited about all this progress that we're doing. Obviously, as you know, we try to make as much, you know, do a lot of progress, make a lot of progress in the off season to try to minimize disruption on our commercial district, the marina. So this is a really busy time for us and our projects. That's all I have.
Thank you, Desiree. Good progress. Item C, consideration of award of a contract to Low Country Custom Construction in the amount of $17,392 to repair and modify the pavers in the 3 intersections of Front Beach on Ocean Boulevard. You can see the budgeted number there of $70,000.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Questions, Desiree, anything to, or Douglas to add? Here, we're gonna get these things fixed once and for all.
17,392.
You didn't say 7D.
No,
Okay.
70 is the budget.
Oh,
That's the
okay,
number we have,
okay.
yeah. 17,392.
No, we request and recommend approval. We are trying to work out with the contract whether or not this work can be done before the Holiday Street Fest, December 3rd. So as soon as you all give us the go-ahead, we'll be communicating that, and Robert's been the point person on this project, and something we're very excited about. We've been trying to do some pig lipstick on the pig on this, and this will be a permanent solution to those intersections that have been so problematic. So that's why the cost is a little bit higher than what we've normally done, but it is a full-blown repair.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item D, consideration of approval of film permit for filming of short film, Good Grief, on November 18th, 2022. And you've got information in your packet, but Desiree, just a quick overview.
Correct. They're requesting approval for filming in the Breach Inlet area and Beach Access 22. 5 days. It's a crew of 12. 4 vehicles. They're not requesting any road closures. They're not requesting any security or additional services from the city. So this is very low impact. You have more information in your packet. Their first day of filming would be November 18th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other questions or?
Just,
Jan? Oh, sorry, Jimmy.
the storyline is safe. I mean, it's not going to embarrass us or anything like that, is it?
It's included in your packet. I don't think so.
All right.
No, it's a
Fine.
tearjerker.
It's a tearjerker.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is discussion and consideration of workshop/committee structure for 2023. Amy, if you'll put the presentation up. See, we have around this at our December 6th meeting, which is becoming longer as we speak. We have to appoint committees for 2023, so we need to pick a path, if you will, from a workshop standpoint. So this presentation is in your packet, but we are going to get there shortly. Maybe. John, nothing like live TV, is it?
got it? You got it in your
I got
packet?
it.
You got it.
Avengers thing where he just goes like this. Just throw it up on the screen, like Tony Stark does.
It's page 108. If you, at the top left, if you put 108, it'll take you there.
113.
That's all right. There you go, thank you. So just real quick, from a review standpoint, if you just go down just a little bit, John or Amy. Perfect. Just real quick, I wanted to review our original goals and objectives with regard to the workshops, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and then some options for going forward. So our original goals with this, next slide, was to try it for 6 months. So we tried it from July through the end of the year. We actually just wound up having 3 workshops just due to holidays and other meeting schedules that were going on. A goal was to develop a new meeting structure that was more efficient and effective. Have all of council be educated and informed on the topic at the same time. Reduce redundancy of updates and presentations by staff and/or outside consultants coming in to present to us. Decrease staff time prepping for, attending, and following up from committee meetings, and ensure council was focused at a policy-making level, not so much a day-to-day operation level. So what worked, next page, I think the use of the dashboard was a great addition to kind of an overview of all the city operations. That was a good piece to it. We certainly did reduce redundancy of updates and presentations. All of council was updated at the same time. Staff time, significant reduction, prepping, attending, and following up from committee meetings. Focus was more at a policy level as opposed to day-to-day. We used standing committees when warranted. So those were just my thoughts. Are there others that someone might have on what worked, and then we can get to what didn't necessarily work great on these workshops?
Next page.
You agree with that piece? What hasn't worked, the meetings were long. We reduced the opportunity for citizens' comments due to fewer meetings by cutting out committee meetings. Some confusion on when we were using workshops or committees versus council meetings, even though I think one of our stated objectives up front when we went to the workshop world was to keep the standing committees in place. When something needed a deeper dive, we would spin it off to a committee for further discussion. Other thoughts?
Why are you looking at me?
Well, you said next page. I thought you
Well, I think one thing that I noticed that all of staff had to be at all of the workshops. So sometimes they would last. They all lasted over 3 hours, and so when we had a committee forum, let's take recreation, and Chairman Popson was very efficient running these meetings, and we would be there barely more than 15 or 20 minutes every meeting, and the recreation director had to be at that meeting, and then they came to maybe Ways and Means and came to full council meeting, but they didn't come to the workshop and have to sit there for 3 hours, and all of the staff had to sit there for the entire time. They're way too long, and I felt like we were just barely touching on very important subjects. My experience has been over the years is that in a committee forum, if you have something that you want to get done, it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time. And you have to have everything processed. You have to do your research. You got to know what you're talking about. And you got to get a consensus with 3 people, with the other 2 people, at least one of them, in order to bring it to council to be even considered. And things that I've worked on, I've always enjoyed being on Public Works, would take, most of the time, the important stuff would take 2 to 3 years of constantly meeting about it and getting in front and getting an update from other outside agencies that were involved with that particular project. I'd like to see us just maybe reduce the committees, and instead of relying so much on the workshop, let's reverse it to where we have committees and they meet only when necessary. We have public safety, real property, personnel, and public works. I don't think at this point that we really need a recreation committee, that could be done similar to the environmental committee that's advisory, that it could be made up of citizens that would work with the director and staff. And then we would have the workshop meetings when something major had to be discussed, like the comprehensive plan, strategic plan, of course, the workshop for Ways and Means. Yeah, but I think maybe a combination of those two, not throw everything out, but I would like to see more focus on the committees, because I feel like that's where the work really, in my opinion, over the years, the work has really gotten done. Thank you.
Okay.
I would agree with that for the most part. I would also like to add for committees, if we do have a committee, you know, if we do have like a real property committee set, I like the idea of only having the committee when necessary, but I think that it should be on the schedule for the same day and time every month, and then have the ability to delete it, because I think it's a lot easier to delete something than it is to try to schedule something that's not scheduled. Yeah.
Yeah, which we certainly had some issues with
experienced,
real
yeah.
property getting together. Scott?
Yeah, I just want to echo, I think the workshops were very valuable for getting all of the dashboard and information from all of the committees or all of the functional areas in one place at one time. Everybody heard at the same time. I think that's very valuable, and I'd like to, hopefully we'll continue that instead of having these, and having the committee meetings be more information and reporting. I think that if the committees focus on issue resolution and working projects like Jimmy, you talked about, that's where the focus should lie, and let the reporting be done at the workshop level. And maybe the workshop can be combined with the Ways and Means, because all of us are attending the Ways and Means at the same time. So you get the informational sharing and Ways and Means combined. I think that'll shorten the meetings considerably, and then we can consolidate I think on the next page, I did read ahead a little bit, Mr. Mayor. I kind of like the framework where we're reducing the number of committees down to just a few.
So Jimmy, to your comment, again, this is just fodder for conversation, not a dictate by any stretch, but, you know, looked at a number of other cities around the state, around us, specifically, and some of this is kind of a combination of 3 or 4 different cities, quite honestly, if you look at just the middle section where we're talking about the committee piece. So, you know, so some type of hybrid where we could get 2 committees and workshops and regular council meetings. So administration would really be personnel-related information, public safety, obvious. And then this public facilities and services would really be a combination of real property, recreation, and public works, and kind of roll that all into one.
1 4-hour meeting,
Yeah.
That's what you want now. Okay.
Rec was only like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Kevin,
which again is a very good example of we don't need to meet just to be meeting, for sure. You know, that next bullet, the conduct 2 council meetings, I think it is Buford, thank you. They actually do 2 workshops and 2 council meetings every month. No committees, no anything. They do 2 workshops and 2 council meetings. Let me get you a brochure, a real estate brochure.
They don't have a job, right?
Well, there's that. So, I mean, again, this was just conversation starters for where we could go and what we could do. But, you know, it felt like we were most all in agreement for some type of hybrid. And if you cut down, you know, on the committees themselves, and Katie, you're exactly right. I think they need to be standing dates, times, and then don't use them if you don't need them, because we all got used to, you know, when the committees were, and you just knew to block your calendar for that. So we don't have to spend time scheduling. But again, these 3 committees were just an idea. So,
If I could make one final comment on that, and I'm sorry to take up that much time, but we used to, for years and years.
Councilmember Ward.
Yeah. Okay, so we did for years and years. We wouldn't even have any committee meetings in December unless it was an emergency. We had one for public safety a few years ago. But we would take off 1 month in the summer, all the committees at a minimum. And then this isn't a new idea, because if there wasn't anything to discuss, especially having to do with budget items or constraints, we just wouldn't meet.
Jan.
I agree that we definitely needed to fix the committees one way or the other. And I'm thinking that now, if we had the regular council meeting in either Ways and Means or workshop or whatever you want to call it, and then at the workshop meeting, where we've got something like the parking lot for the marina, that immediately goes to committee. Or what are these, the noise ordinance now, we put it in committee. So you get, the council can automatically assign the item for a committee at the workshop, and we know when the meeting's gonna be and who's on it, because we'll have standing committees for it. I think that would work well. It'll reduce the time for the workshops, because we got bogged down in these issues, specific issues that we had no business, going that deep into a subject at a workshop. But we'll still get the work done. So it's a hybrid, is what I'm talking about.
Assuming we had 3 standing committees, I assume we would have 3 would be on, someone would be on each one committee. Is that?
And one person would be on 2.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, make it so.
Make it so. But other comments or?
I would just.
One last thing on this. Would we go back to the old way where the mayor picks his list for committee members? Or will the council, as we did one year, have input? Who were on those committees?
Yeah. What's your preference?
I really haven't made up my mind, but I was just a question I would ask of the council.
Yeah, that 1 year was painful, I'll be quite honest with you, but.
Hopefully by process, we can express our interest in what committee we'd like to be on and work it out and.
I mean, it's nice to have continuity for sure on some of these committees, without a doubt. Personnel and well, they all come to mind. I mean, it's just critical you spend a year, well, you take this year as a good example, Jimmy, to your point, you spend this year 5 months in a committee, figuring out, getting your legs under you just a little bit. Then we go to workshops. So, people that have been on those committees really haven't, even spent a year on them at this point. So I think it'd be nice just to continue the continuity with where people sit today.
One question. What are we legally required to have for committees? What's in the law?
So it's going to sunset what you have now.
At 12/31, right?
Right.
No, I meant the state law. Aren't we required to have certain committees by law?
No.
The ATAX Advisory Commission and the Planning Commission are 2 that are mandated by state law. The other ones are up to council.
Oh, okay,
I mean, our
good.
code, we would have to do a change, we could do the same thing we did this past year and just did a suspension, if you will, to try this for 6 months if we wanted to, and again, see if it worked, before we went in and made ordinance changes.
Okay.
And we would, if it's the will of council, we would develop an ordinance for you all to consider in December, effectuating this change for a period of time. That can certainly be up to you all to let us know. In terms of, I think, Councilmember Ward, to your question, the process by which members of committees are assigned, historically, it has been the mayor, communicating with members and understanding what their interests are. But the code actually establishes a different a process by which any member can nominate themselves or any other member to the committee.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other
So
questions?
this is we're just directing staff. Are we voting, or are we just
We are voting.
to direct staff?
And if we wanted to adopt this hybrid type model, we definitely need to vote. And again, if we want to try it for 6 months and see if it works, or just adopt this for 2023, I
I'd like to move that we adopt the framework that you have up here and direct staff to go put an ordinance together for us.
Is there a second?
Do I have a second?
I have just a
Yeah.
procedural question. So you're looking at 3 different committees: administration, public safety, and public facilities and services. In addition to those 3, which will only meet as needed, you want to have a workshop and a council meeting.
And I think the
Not
workshop
necessarily.
is a / ways and means.
Okay.
I mean, there's gonna need to be somewhere where we spend a little more time than just council meetings, I think, on
Okay.
items.
Well, can't that just be Ways and Means?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when it says conduct 2 council meetings, that's
That's a different option, sorry. So these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets on the left, 4 bullets on the left are the options going forward. So
The hybrid.
we're talking about bullet 2, creating a hybrid approach with workshops and revised committee structure. So again, workshops could be Ways and Means, whatever we want to call it, with just those 3 committees. Katie, sorry.
We need it.
But then,
When
but
needed.
then actual council meetings per month, it would be 1 regular and 1 workshop, Ways and Means, whatever we want to call it. Okay. So it would be two full meetings a month.
That's right. And potentially 3 additional if there's a need
Yeah,
for the
and
committees.
committees as needed.
Committees as needed. But at the,
Yes.
at the one, at the Ways and Means and stuff, you wouldn't have to go through everything.
Right.
Like
I think
we've been doing.
Keep out the redundancy.
Correct.
Sure.
And I think it would be helpful because something I've seen in my years here is there's particular issues that I think the entire council is interested in addressing. And I think at the workshop, you have the opportunity to decide, is this an issue that we all want to work on in as much detail as you want, all of you? Or if it goes to a committee, I think you can make that decision at the workshop and assign those issues appropriately.
More flexible.
Yeah.
I think it's good.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Who
Opposed?
seconded the motion?
The
I
mayor
did.
did.
Okay.
Thank you. Good conversation. Item 7, Boards and Commissions Report. Board of Zoning Appeals, no meeting in November. Planning Commission, minutes are attached. Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee, their next meeting is this week on November 17th. Environmental Advisory Committee, minutes are attached.
Skip a page. Skip a page. Yep, because we've done that.
Item B, first reading of ordinance 2022-13, First Amendment to lease agreement between the city and Marker 116 LLC. Kevin, you want to?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we received this amendment last Wednesday before our real property committee meeting, which we had on Thursday. We really didn't have time to kind of go through this amendment. There was some things added with the parking and some other stuff. And so I would recommend that we send this back to real property so we could discuss this amendment and then bring back a recommendation to council.
Because we've got to do an amendment to the lease anyway for whatever we wind up with on the parking and.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think,
I would, go ahead.
and I think we had discussed once upon a time, doing them both at the same time. I think that was
I think so too.
somewhere.
So what's the official action we need to take here?
You
Defer
can,
this?
you can take no action. You can, make a motion to officially send it back to real property and defer action on first reading until a recommendation comes forward.
All right, let's do that.
I just have a question. And that
Let's
is,
get the motion on the table
Okay.
first, and we can go to it. So Kevin, you want to make a motion just to send it back to real property?
Yeah, motion to move this item back to real property for their discussion. And recommendation back to council.
Second.
Thank you. Jan?
my question is just one for the committee to consider, is to make sure that this is reviewed by our lawyers, Brian Kitts, to get his input as to whether this is an appropriate lease or not, the way it's written. And then for our input, the committee's input as well.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item C, resolution and petitions. We have a petition for the preservation of public and private recreation facilities and to cap the density in the Wild Dunes PRD to reflect the current existing units and approved lots. And that was in the packet, 850 plus signatures, give or take.
Which is an all receipt, right?
Yep. No need for executive session. There being no further business.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Off record at 8:16.
Taking away those workshops, we cut this thing down.
That's pretty close.
Very. Impressive.